All right. So just like Casper, I got a lot to cover in 15 minutes, and I kind of like begged. I was like, can I get half an hour? And he's like, no. But it's all good. I really want to show a ton of stuff today, and I'm going to get through as much as I possibly can. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want my slides. I imagine you might after seeing some of the hacks that I have here. But let me tell you a little bit about myself, as that one loads. So I do have a forehead. I've co-founded 6 different startups. I've had 12 years of marketing experience. I've published a few different ebooks. I teach all over. I really kind of get off on doing this kind of stuff because it's fun. It's tossing somebody a flashlight in a dark room and saying, go explore, right? So CBS, KU, Talent Garden. So I'm teaching a 2-day masterclass over at Talent Garden. Casper's actually coming along for the ride for that one too, confirmed. I am the former CMO of Valuer.ai. I got fired on Thursday, so out in the market. Part of the reason for that is I work on a lot of shit, right? So I work 7 days a week. I really dig marketing. So these are some of the projects. Talent Garden, I already covered the masterclass. This is Architecture Quote. I've already seen a few people I work with. I'm one of the founders of that. It's deal flow software for architects. And then last but not least, Taylor Ryan I.O. I don't do kids parties. I do a lot of presentations like this. And then also Klint Marketing, which is my growth hacking firm. I want to help people set up tech stacks, get more leads, drive conversions and sales. So my goal for today is to provide value. Again, you don't have to worry about snapping photos of the slides. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, you get them for free. Okay, so growth hacking, I tend to spend a lot of time on this slide because I want people to understand that this is something that is relatively difficult to learn just on a theoretical level. You have to test stuff out. You have to try new things. You have to give every kind of new area a little bit of time to kind of learn and understand. And once you start learning and understanding elements of one area, you can start applying it to many others. So growth hacking as it stands within LinkedIn pages is really difficult. And I want to go into kind of why that is and what that looks like. So some stats for you. LinkedIn is not the biggest platform out there, far from it. So there's 630 million users, and of those users, you have about half that are actually active monthly, not weekly. There is no API anymore. That went away back in like 2013. So the idea is that you have less access to tools that actually allow you to automate a lot of stuff. So of course, it's an arms race, so there's a million different workarounds. I'm going to show you a few of those. Something to bear in mind that I'm covering right now is the referral traffic. This is the average of referral traffic from LinkedIn. So it's between 2 and 5%. And realistically, in that kind of framing, you should be spending about 2 to 5% of your time building up stuff on LinkedIn because it's not providing as much value. And in terms of actual conversions that you get from that, you're looking at an even smaller number. The biggest cohort that continues to grow on LinkedIn, this shouldn't be a surprise, it's recent grads because they're looking for jobs. If you post more job ads on your LinkedIn page, you're going to find that you're going to get a lot more followers. Now, it might not be ideal customers, but it's something to bear in mind. So some of the data that I'm going to throw at you here is essentially based off of what we did over the span of a year and a half, which is 2,030 followers. That comes out to about 3.7 per day. Oh, sorry about that. Stepped on somebody's laptop. Okay. So I wanted to touch on something that I'm fascinated by. It's the decline of organic reach. So every single platform out there, it's all these guys at the bottom, all of them are losing anything in the way of organic reach, especially from a business perspective. And the reason for that is they want to make money. And they're realizing that people that are representing themselves might not spend a lot of money in order to get more engagement, but companies will. So they're turning down the reach. And the only way to overcome that is to open up your wallet. So bear in mind that we're also in this new era of engaging less, right? We engage as people less because of ad nauseum. We see too many ads on a daily basis. More content equals more noise. Everybody's creating something new because Gary Vaynerchuk said, you got to get out there and make content, right? There's also fake news, which means lack of trust. People are afraid to like things because they're like, I don't know if this is real or not, right? That also, it kind of comes into this world of filter bubbles. There's a great TED Talk about how everybody here has a completely unique feed and actually sees something wildly different from everybody else in this room. It's a shift in behavior. One of the things that I missed to mention on that slide, LinkedIn has 14,000 employees. They actually just cleared, let me make sure I'm not misquoting. They just cleared $6.4 billion in revenue. That comes out to $371,000 per employee of LinkedIn. They're raking in money because companies like Casper's is super happy to hand it over, but they are making money, right? So some of the things that I want to go over is kind of related to organic reach. So some of the biggest influencers on LinkedIn have lost a lot of their reach. I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, down by 50%, Richard Branson. So the idea is that LinkedIn is shifting this whole concept of how an individual and a page reaches to something more related to meaningful engagement, meaningful dialogues. It has to be relevant to you, either the marketer or the, sorry, I get dry mouth, the developer, whatever your job title is. There's a big difference between niche and broad, and the idea is that they're focusing a lot of their feed on something very niche and also local. So you don't necessarily see stuff coming in from Germany as much as you do Copenhagen, Denmark. All right, so post engagement. Post engagement is down across the board. So what used to happen a year ago is not the same in terms of numbers. So the idea is that these are all averages, by the way. And because there is no open API, it's averages based on one person's page or somebody that manages a few. So the idea is that your company page reach is between 4 and 6%. So anything that goes out through Valuer at 2,030 people that are viewing it, the reality is only between 60 and about 120 actually see my post. If you go through any company page that hasn't been self-promoted, you'll see that almost all the people liking it happen to work there, right? And that's what's happening. The only way around that is to promote that using boosting, and quite frankly, that's not really a good use of your money. So the idea is that if people are not immediately engaged with following your page, they drop off. Essentially, LinkedIn stops showing your stuff. So a follower of Valuer 6 months ago is no longer seeing the posts that I put out yesterday, today, and the day after. Something that I think is really interesting is just over 1% of all monthly users create weekly content. I'm really curious, how many people here post something on LinkedIn every week? Liars. No, it's probably true. But I don't know if it's 1%, but obviously, like, you people are taking your time out of your busy schedule to come learn some cool shit. So you might be kind of in a different cohort overall. But I do think that there is something to be said. There is a very low ratio between the number of creators and the amount of people in the audience that are actually engaging with stuff. So it is a great platform for that. The second best one I would say would be Pinterest. Nobody's creating stuff on there. Quite frankly, this slide is basically just showing how essentially you can go viral on LinkedIn. It's basically this first hour is this witching period, this period where you have to drive as much engagement as possible. Remember that, because I'm going to come back to it. Then it measures natural engagement. After that, it's comparing to other content at the time and relevancy. And then human editors actually say, huh, that's an interesting piece of content. Let's open the floodgates and make sure they get tons of engagement. So I want to show some content hacks that everybody can immediately use, because I think this stuff is like way cool. And it's one of my favorite things to kind of mess with. So there's a ton of other platforms that exist out there that are fantastic for finding great content. Reddit is one of my favorites, and so is Quora. So look up your favorite key phrase within your industry, your sales, and see what it ranks as within Reddit. Within the last 30 days, you'll find that these are the most top converting articles in terms of engagement, or it's pictures, or it's memes, whatever the case is. You essentially can reuse that for your own social media and take the credit. And a lot of people are doing it. I'm going to show an example. There's a million things that you can do within Facebook groups. So any post that's super engaged on a Facebook post or a Facebook group that's related to your industry or your potential buyer, if you see it, there's over 100 comments and maybe 50 plus likes, go ahead and steal the post. Who here likes bananas? You know, and it's like, hey, a banana group, go for it if you're selling bananas. So that'd be weird in any other group, right? I got a bunch of other things in here, but in the essence of saving time, I got to move on. In terms of actually copying some of the bigger influencers out there, there's a ton of different tools to do that. I'm not necessarily saying it's cool to steal, but I want to show an example of what that looks like. So this guy basically posted what they used to call broetry. There was this growth hacker called Josh Fetchner that basically figured out if you line breaked a short story on LinkedIn, the engagement went through the roof because people were hitting the see more button. And that still does actually apply. But this guy basically wrote a short story about reaching out to a CMO or CEO, and at the end he says, don't forget where you came from. So a few days later, somebody copies the post, and then a few days after that, somebody copies the post. And by the way, tons of engagement on this. This is 38,967 likes. So we go a little further down the rabbit hole. Somebody else is like, I kind of like that too. They posted it, and then somebody else posted it, and somebody's like, I'm going to create an article, and I'll post it too. Right? And then somebody's like, well, I got to sell my product on top of this post. So then they just put their product details just below the post. Right? And at some point, you know, like somebody else even had a douchebag move of essentially writing the same post but tagging the guy to piggyback on his engagement, right? And it's like, come on, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, be original, you know? And the reality is, like, that actually works, you know? So if you have low morals or don't care about principles, the world's your oyster, because nobody's measuring duplicate content on the old LinkedIn, I can promise you that. So I'm going to run through a couple of really fast hacks. I think it's more important to understand the tool, or at least the high-level kind of way of using it. So Interlab. It works for you, but it keeps kicking me out of LinkedIn, so I'm just saying that. Be trepidatious with kind of going forward with this. The whole idea is that you're basically building pods. It's a group of people that are all kind of in the same background that essentially as soon as you post an article, the URL goes into a pod, and then everybody automatically likes it and then comments on it. So the idea is that first hour, that witching hour, is essentially overloaded with your own network engaging with this post. And that's how you get ahead. So honestly, whenever I post anything on the old LinkedIn, when I had a huge team over at Valuer, not anymore, but I asked everybody, hey, please engage on this stuff. And my views and engagement went through the roof because it gets exposed immediately to all these other people's networks. So the idea is it's really simple. You can actually change the different comments. I would actually encourage you to make longer comments. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that essentially says anything shorter or at 3 words of a comment is basically thrown out as it's like, hey, congrats, nice job, way to go. Like, make something that's more relevant to the actual conversation. Honestly, set it up and enjoy the show. I think it's great. So here's more of the sneaky shit that I absolutely love. This is Phantom Buster. So I want to take what my competitors have done the best at and essentially steal all their engaged users. So the idea is that I can find out all of my competitors' top pages. Essentially, what posts have they done the best with, right? And essentially, I scrape every single person that has either liked or commented on it using Phantom Buster. There's a little recipe over here. So LinkedIn post commenters means I pull out every comment from every post from every single competitor and put them in one targeting group. Now, I can either send out emails, and I'll show you how to do that, or I create a custom audience and immediately target those folks. And guess what? If you like my boy over there, you're going to love me, right? That's the idea, and you all can do that right now. It doesn't take any development, programming. It's a matter of just kind of following directions. Just like, you know, baking a cake or baking brownies. Like, you just have to follow the directions and you're pretty much set. Data enrichment is like a really fun thing, and the more you get into it, the more you want to learn. The idea is all these little tools down here on the bottom essentially allow you to grab somebody's email based on their LinkedIn profile. And again, you get these slides for free if you connect with me on the old LinkedIn. But yeah, the whole idea is essentially you're building up an entire database of emails that you can either put into funnels or start building something in the way of retargeting. It totally works. The only thing that I encourage you to do is be very careful with overdoing it. And I'm going to show a couple of different things within that. One of the other fun things that I just kind of wanted to give something to the sales folks, the idea is that you can actually pull in LinkedIn, 3 minutes, cool. You can pull in LinkedIn messages directly into your CRM using this clever little hack. So Push by Zapier essentially allows you to pull in the entire conversation so that you're not copy paste. Really nice, super helpful. I'm going to run through this last little bit as fast as possible because I know I'm low on time. Here's why you want to create a faked LinkedIn account to do some sketchy but awesome shit. So get a dedicated IP, right? And it's not hard to do that. NordVPN is probably my favorite. The idea is sync contacts with an old personal email, only 100 at a time. That way it looks like you have a genuine account. Run a little spinner over some competitors' profiles so you look like you're a real person. And then upgrade to Sales Navigator for $80 a month. And then download the extension Linked Helper. Be very careful with using your own account. This is why you use a fake LinkedIn account. I have a link to this article that essentially shows the different extensions that get you banned. So the idea is using Linked Helper, you essentially are able to filter out a search by the target market. So I only want C-level people located in Copenhagen, Denmark that are in this industry and search. And I can scrape everybody that comes up. So I scrape all those emails. I need to change the URLs. You can swap out for LinkedIn Prospector. Thanks, Abhi, in the back. And then after that, I want to run it through Phantom Buster to essentially get the right URLs. After that, I want to enrich the data to get the right email address based on those profiles. Then I'll put them through Clear Out. Always, always, always scrub your email list because there's a bunch of junk in there and you want to make sure you're not getting too many bounces in your message out. After that, I'm basically going, cool, import it into Snove or Snovio, depending on the way you talk about it. Then I set up a sequence drip campaign that basically has 1, 2, 3 emails. And if I want to really get cool with it, I start setting up a few triggers. If they open the email, you get one thing. If they don't open the email, you get another. If they click a link, they get another, just kind of like Casper's stuff. So in closing, I wish I had like an hour because like I'm really into this shit. Like it's my favorite thing in the whole world. So honestly, I really appreciate you giving me this chance to get up here. These are my other projects. Connect with me on the old LinkedIn, and thank you guys for coming.